Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We got a good crowd. We got everything going on. This is nice. Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Caucus.
Here.
Mrs. Passio.
Here.
Mr. Ranieri.
Here.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Here.
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Mrs. Kelly. Here.
Mr. Severo is excused.
Yes. Mr. Long.
Here.
And it's Mr. Bach. And Ms. Strahl. Here. And Mr. Rozon.
Present. Okay. Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner. One, posted on the bulletin board of the Borough Clerk's office on January 6, 2021, and emailed to the retrospect and courier post on January 6, 2021. This is a caucus meeting, so normally we would be sitting differently, but because of the good practices, we're set up the way we are. So we're going to go through the resolutions first, then we'll go around our committee stuff. We do have some action we have to take this evening, and there's a few other things that I'm going to walk on just to make Joyce happy and Mr. Long happy. But let's go on with Resolution 2192. This is resolution granting 2021-2022 liquor license. This has to be done because of timing. We were waiting for some of these applicants, and I believe all the paperwork is in order, correct? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Passio, second by Mr. Ranieri. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Passio.
Yes.
And Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
6 ayes, 1 absent.
All right, the resolution is adopted. Resolution 2193 is a resolution authorizing participation in the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds program. This is where the borough is going to receive $868,000 in change with some strings attached over a 2-year period of time. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion. And I'll second that motion.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, second by Ms. Passio. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Passio.
Yes.
And Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
It's 5 ayes, 6 absent. Who made the motions?
Ms. Kelly and Ms. Passio.
Thank you.
So that resolution is adopted. Resolution 2194 is a resolution of support for local governing body authorizing the Sustainable Jersey grant application. This is for the $2,500 we were just awarded for $2,000. We were awarded for,
Small grant for.
Website.
Right.
okay, beautiful.
Green Team's website.
Green Team website, right? Very good. And Mr. Ranieri sent a nice picture of the green team up to the state, so we'll see what that is. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Ranieri, second by Mr. Farrell. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Passio.
Yes.
And Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
5 ayes, 1 absent.
All right, the resolution is adopted. Resolution 2195 is a resolution authorizing salaries for 2021. This is for our EMTs. We've had some issue with part-time EMTs. So as what this plan does, this was given to us by Mr. Kearney and Mr. Ferret, who's the new assistant to Mr. Kearney. They came up with rates based on longevity, based on ability, based on certifications. And the idea is to try to entice these people to be there. We're having a lot of times where we can't fill positions. So council previously, or has second reading for the ordinance changing the rates. But the rates, if you look, they're all over the place. And the reason is from $16 all the way to $20.50 based on time that they've been here and stuff like that. So these are all part-timers, so they're limited to the amount of hours they work. But obviously it's important that this ambulance runs 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So would someone like to make a motion?
I will make that motion. And I will second that motion.
Motion by Ms. Keller, second by Ms. Passio. Any other discussion? Before we vote, I just want to add that obviously this is some of the funding we could use from this this Recovery Act to help us for paying for these kinds of things. The problem we have to be careful of is any of the money that we spend on recurring costs, the money is only good for 2 years. So in year 3, where do we pay for this stuff? So we've got basically 2 years to figure out how we can sustain these rates and this new normal that we have. So an example that I'll give you is one of the things we're not billing for necessarily is when we go to someone's house and they refuse service. And when they refuse service, the men and women show up, they get there, the ambulance shows up, the police department shows up, and the person refuses service. We should be able to bill a minimum amount to their insurance companies or even to the individual potentially to say, you can't just call us out and then refuse service. So those are things that we can do and evaluate all the costs and reimbursements from both insurance companies, Medicare, and Medicaid. Okay, so roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Passio.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
And Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
5 ayes, 1 absent.
The resolution is adopted. Resolution 2196 is a resolution requesting approval of items of revenue and appropriations, Chapter 159. These are insertions to the budget based on grants that were awarded to the borough.
This is the body cameras.
Mr. Lee, oh, it's only the body camera? You didn't do the other ones?
There'll be one for
Next. Okay, so at this point, we're only, the grant that the borough received for $61,140 for the body cameras. We're going to insert that in the budget with this resolution. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'll second that motion.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, second by Ms. Passio. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Passio. And
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
5 ayes, 1 absent.
All right, the resolution is adopted. Okay, so this is a little bit of discussion before we do this. I know I sent everybody some information about some of the other municipalities with the cannabis ordinance. Our attorney continues to berate me every time I bring up I will say that I was invited briefly to speak to the police department about this, and I want to let everybody know how you're meant. So yesterday, the police department had a meeting discussing how you're going to enforce the new marijuana laws and things like that.
Yes, I wanted to give them as much training. I sent 2 officers, Patrolman Marchese and Corcoran, to a class at the police academy because the laws are ever changing. And whenever I can give the guys to educate them more than not, I want to do. So they're in charge of, I'm nominated, they're going to be in charge of our training. So they held a very nice PowerPoint presentation.
So those 2 guys got trained and then trained everybody else, and they can be asked questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Is
So-
there a cost for that training?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's part of the budget.
Minimal,
Yeah.
very minimal, within my budget.
Yeah, he's got a budget for
I got a
training.
budget line for that. It was very important.
So I showed up to just at least talk to them before the meeting and ask them their opinions about this. Because I know I sent it out to members of council, and I heard what Ms. Kelly said, and I know what John said something to me about it. I know we discussed it briefly, and, the retrospect is right here, talking about how some towns are, looking into it differently. So even though tonight, I know Mr. Long is going to continue to recommend that we pass an ordinance that just punts, we take it easy.
I don't even call it a punt though. I think it's a step back for a second, be able to more accurately assess the environment, the regulations when they come out, what works and doesn't work for other municipalities, because when you're trying to get in too soon, what I've seen is that you're trying to hit a moving target. What I'm saying is more of a pump the brakes, see how things land, and then accurately assess what you want to do moving forward. Because remember, it's clear in the law that, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, talk. I'm just going to follow up because what you're saying, I want to agree with you.
Sure. Okay, great. So, this is two. You see what comes at a council meeting. This has been 3 weeks of discussion.
Yes.
Well, that's what everything that goes into it. And I think that's important for people to know. That you're not in any way saying we're against doing this by opting out. What you're saying is, let's see how it develops and put ourselves in a prime position that if we choose to opt in once we see how it goes elsewhere, statewide, and things like that, then we're in a position to, in an efficient manner, opt in.
And there's no loss by opting in later?
No, so remember, you have to do something
Right.
by August 21st, or else you can't restrict it at all for 5 years. So
we can-
So what's that something?
This ordinance. So you have an ordinance
You're opt in
tonight,
or opt out.
it's an ordinance basically saying that we're opting out at this point. But what Mr. Long is also saying is, if the next meeting we have, we decide to change our mind,
Yeah.
we can opt back
We
in.
can start.
One of the problems is that the law has not been established yet.
So I'm going to correct you
Yes.
slightly. Just because you have to pass it as your ordinance first, before you can then
Rescind.
rescind.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So August 21st is this deadline, so that's why we have to do this. Yes?
My only concern is, if an investor's looking into our ordinances, will they see this and move on to another town? That's my concern.
I said that
That
to
was the
you.
same question he asked. I know, because I think everybody is aware, and it's made clear with the law as it's set, that we're not saying we are banning this forever. What our ordinance is going to say is that by this August 21st deadline, at this point in time, we are no, and then if you see the whereas clauses here, we can make clear and point to the fact that it's, let's see how it plays out, as opposed to, we are taking a definitive position right here, right now, we are out on cannabis sales forever as a council. We're not saying that. So I think by the way we are couching this ordinance, I think that gives us the ability to, I know often we glance over the whereas clauses, but this is one of those times where I think it's really important because it shows our intent. And I think we made clear, at a public meeting like we are tonight, when we pass the ordinance, if anybody comes out of the public hearing, Mayor, you said that there have been a number of potential business owners who have approached you. I think now that if you get this ordinance on record in this manner, I think that covers your concern, Councilman Ranier, but certainly.
Well, it's something I did say this, if there was a way for us to say no, but with an explanation on it. So maybe we can sort of explain. I do believe that council feels we want to approve this, correct? But
I
we want the
out to get,
rules.
and I want to wait. I'm putting the
So
rules.
no. The question I'm saying is, if we had good rules,
Yes.
I think we would be happy to allow it, correct?
We have to find out what the regulations are going to be. Regulations have not been published.
Yes, so now what I heard, there's a bill pending that may push this August 21st deadline back. If that happens, what I'm going to recommend to everybody is, we don't do the second reading. We just punt. We do punt. We wait. Because one of the problems is, they want us to make a decision by the 21st, which means we have to start now to have an ordinance read 2 times. They're going to come out with regulations in the next 4 to 6 weeks. At that point, we can say, okay, now we know what it is. They've pushed this deadline back 6 months. I'm exactly with what John says. I'm afraid that Asbury Park Press is going to call Joyce up and say, well, what does your council do? Well, they voted no. So there's going to be a list of 565 towns, and they're going to have 500 that voted no and 65 that voted yes. And that's what I believe Mr. Ranieri was getting at. People are going to look at it.
If investors are going to be coming out early to lock up the areas, the territories, and if they do, and they see that we're not interested right now.
I agree, that was one of my concerns, and I think this is one of the concerns of the other towns.
So let's hold,
It
let's,
shows that we're not in a
if
rush.
we
that
pass
we're
this
waiting.
tonight, then we could say it's not a done deal until the second reading,
It's
so
not an undeal to the second reading.
I'm okay with that.
But once it's done, we can actually undo the ordinance again, and rather
The only way you lock yourself in, and I know that is pending, but of course we can, as we've learned over the past 16 months,
Yes.
Harry probably better than anybody, you can't trust what's happening from above, you gotta do what you gotta do. And the only way you can box yourself into a corner is if you miss this August 21st deadline, and then there's no extension, and then there's an 11th hour break or something like that. So it's all about maintaining flexibility and not locking yourselves in.
So,
One more thing.
Yep.
As we're talking about today, Mayor, it's, when you get the threshold question, right? Do we want to opt out or opt in at this point? You opt out, here's your ordinance, fine, done, we'll see how it all develops. But then, and the conversation that you and I had, Councilwoman Kelly, last week, when you opt in, okay, what does that mean? And that opens up an entirely different conversation that I think is a bit speculative
And
for
I
us.
covered all those points that
Yes, you did.
I questioned.
You talked about, you looked at a neighboring town's ordinance, and it's the environmental impacts. What are the financial impacts? What zones? Do you want to restrict everything? Do you want to restrict nothing? And then do it, how do you do with conditional uses? So I just think the deadline is, I wish it would have been a year, to be honest with you, and I wish that the regulations would have come out prior to, great pen, by the way, Councilwoman Kelly, I appreciate that. And, you know, before we were forced to make a decision, but we're still forced to make the decision, because it rolls downhill to the municipalities like always.
So the two things I wanted to make everyone clear was that the police department did it basically just a little straw poll, and I was actually extremely surprised. They were for it, that they really had limited concerns, but their concerns were not a no. Their concerns were, you know, a little bit of planning, a little bit of understanding, kind of what we're talking about right now. But it wasn't a hard no. The only hard no's I've gotten from are mostly from attorneys that want hard no's, not you, but you know, prosecuting attorneys, other
So,
prosecuting attorneys.
when an investor is looking into our ordinance, or an engineer is looking into our ordinances, do they go online, do they call the clerk, what do they do?
Both. They can do anything.
Right,
They
so
can go
you need to
online.
know that when you get that phone call, it's a
Well, one of the
question.
things I thought about, what you brought up was,
Use the word no.
we could put right on our website that you know, just like this headline, that Runnemede is, Oakland warns to marijuana. So we could say that we've warned to it, but we haven't established the rules.
But you do know that.
That's what I was trying to get at, Eleanor. We're still for it, but
It
with,
will be in our code,
yes,
and then they will look at this and say,
we opted out.
we opted out.
Yes, it will be a fact that we opted out.
Okay.
And we're doing this because we don't know what regulations the state is.
That's
putting
one,
on.
that's
That's
one.
one of the things.
That's the big one?
There's just a lot of uncertainty right now.
And what
John.
could they say that would scare us?
Well, an example that I brought up was, we don't know how many licenses they're going to give out. We don't know if it's going to be a first come, first served. We don't know what the criteria is going to be.
Uses, planning board
Yes.
involvement,
All the
financial impacts.
So for example, you know, some of the notes that I made, I reviewed Barrington's ordinance, and I don't mean to offend Barrington, but some of the things that I thought was they didn't specify the amount of parking. They didn't specify the size of the property. They missed things. They hit things that I thought were really good, talking about the hours of operation and things like that. But then I think parking can be a problem. I mean, it's a problem for any business. We have to be considerate of parking. So the land use stuff is big, and then exactly where do we put it? One thing I will say about the police department, they were sort of open where they understand that Black Horse Pike has opportunities, but then it's real close to residential. 9th Avenue has opportunities, but then it's sort of secluded and could also have different issues. So, but the thing I want to bring out is, I've asked them to come back with some input, but generally, they were open-minded. You know, the idea that there would be a way for us to generate revenue. We're allowed to charge up to 2% of the value. So for example, if a business does $5 million a year, that's $100,000 that can be brought back to the borough. And in the past, when we had those additional revenues, they tend to go to the departments. Police tend to get a car every year.
Will it no longer
We do something for public works. Excuse me, John?
Will it no longer be cash because it's going to be legal? You know, it's always been a cash business across the country because the federal government. didn't
Oh, we
have-
take cash. We take cash.
I'm just saying, do I have to go in once a week in the till or something?
I might have to send you some.
Well, great, it is, it's jealous.
And I think the point that I've been stressing to the mayor and the council people that I've spoken to is that the key to this is making the most informed decision possible, which is best for your community. There are certain communities, and like we said, we're not going to disperse with anybody else's decision because everybody is having the same conversation. It's great for them to hop in right now with both feet, great. For us, just knowing this group and knowing this town, you know, the way I do, I think this approach is what's best for us.
I agree.
And I agree.
I
Let's vote on it.
Okay, so we have first reading of ordinance 2107. It's good. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt on first reading and advertise according to law, with a public hearing to be held on the 27th day of July, 2021, at a meeting beginning at 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, motion by Ms. Kelly, second by Ms. Passio. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Passio.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
And Mr. O'Leary.
Yes.
6 ayes.
All right, that was good.
5 ayes, 1 absent.
5 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you, council.
New business discussion for this meeting. Public hearing on ordinance 2106, amending the salaries for the EMTs, we took care of that. 3 chapter 159s, we took care of that. an appointment of the EMT and SLEO 2. I know that you've sent over that. Did you have to meet the SLEO 2, or are we okay with
Oh, yeah,
it?
he's passed up.
Everything's good in the EMT, so we'll put that on for the July meeting. One thing I do want to make clear on that resolution for the EMT salaries, that was retroactive. I want to make sure that's clear. That was done to match
To the
April.
14th, I think.
Yeah, so that they were able to discuss it and do that, because we had to change the work schedule like that. Appointment of an interim inspector. What is that?
That's your Keith thing.
Now, we're gonna need a resolution for that. So the resolution, basically, that's gonna be a retro resolution also.
Is it going to be separate from a regular appointment resolution?
He's already has the job as a part-time, as a electrical or building inspector. But what he's doing is, when we are behind on inspections, he's willing to come in on a per diem opportunity. So for example, we had some issues with work being done in town. The construction office was telling people we couldn't get out there for 2 weeks. So then the complaints started to come in, and the solution was to bring in basically an overtime. So found out from other towns that they'll pay $150 for someone to come in and do inspections. Now, it's not just one inspection, it's a group of inspections. So we've actually already started to do this, so it'll be a retro inspection also. So
Who is this fellow?
Mr. Ravelings, who took Mr.
Well, the electrical.
No, not
Keith.
no, the guy from Voorhees. What was his name? Colin. Colin left to go back to Voorhees. He was working full-time at Voorhees. So Keith came in, he worked for Medford, Lakes, Patton Township, Camden, and he worked part-time for us. He works for Magnolia, and he'll work, he worked a few days
And
that
what's this
car.
fellow's name?
Keith Ravelings. So the resolution should say that per diem for anybody, not just Mr. Ravelings, but any part-time inspector, $150 per day for a part-time inspector. That's a good thing, right, Mr. Hunt?
Is over above their stipulated.
It's over above their normal set hours.
Right. Over above.
And this is retroactive, what, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks also to follow the pay.
Well, are we, now I'm confused now. Are we appointing, are we mentioning his name, or are we just doing this as a general?
We probably should mention his name because he was appointed only as construction. I sent you an email. He was.
I have the email.
Okay, so read it. And it says, you make me get up.
Need additional electrical inspection.
We need the
Yes,
exercise.
go up. Read it.
Okay. All right, so it's called, and this is how additional inspections outside of the discipline I was hired for in many other townships. I need to be appointed as an interim inspector in the discipline you need. In this case, electric, but my towns usually appoint me to all other disciplines. In your case, I would recommend electrical, fire, plumbing, and mechanical. The cost to the Hebrew Township, to the borough, is $150 a day. Amounts of inspections can vary in a day. The daily fee covers all inspections. This can cover your last minute inspections for any reasons and things like that.
Okay, so he's being hired as an interim inspector for
He's being
electrical,
appointed, yeah, as interim inspector
for electrical, fire, plumbing, mechanical.
Yes.
And he has
I want that in there, but make sure that all that stuff is in the resolution,
You said this
mayor.
would be for anybody. Did you mean,
In this particular case, it's only for this guy because he has it.
so it's going to appoint him as interim with these titles?
Yes,
I can just put him on a regular appointment resolution?
yes. So it's retroactive also because we had to catch
To what
up.
date? Do you know?
14th. You know?
Well, that's it.
Guys, a lot of things are happening. What are we gonna do? We only meet once a month.
February 1st.
You can't, here's what the law says. Mr. Law, the law says you have to do an inspection within 72 hours.
Correct.
The construction office was telling people 2 weeks. What do I do?
Allegedly.
No, factually.
Allegedly. Yeah, you get the dollar column.
Technically, you probably have 30 days to schedule an inspection.
It's not true. I sue municipalities all the time and go after them for this. I've called the DCA, gone after towns. That's why I'm an elected official. I have, contempt for government. So I
both sides.
got in it. Again,
I'm gonna have him put the shot.
we're going to shot Colin back over here. It's 72 hours. If you call the DCA, you know what the DCA says?
2 down.
They say, well, they're supposed to do it in 72 hours. What does that mean? Well,
Okay.
nothing. So, as good government, which I hope we all believe in good government, the action was to resolve the problem. Now, we can send our engineer out to do inspections. Other towns have done that.
Other towns do it. It's not.
Are you flat for your hours?
It's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate, but, you know, I've been on jobs, I was on it to the public, I've been on jobs where the builder threw off the town and wouldn't let the town on his property. And the state of New Jersey came down and did all the inspections. Right?
Yeah.
So there are options for
I've heard
us.
that.
You can fire all your inspectors and hire outside employment to do this. Bordentown, the city of Bordentown does that. Right? Mr. Dirks, who lived in our town, he used to be an inspector.
Other municipalities have hired third-party consultants that employ the inspectors. I would not recommend that for the borough.
I understand. The point though is we ran into a situation where something needed to be resolved. And so the way to
I
resolve it
think you solved it.
was the
very
way
well.
to get somebody.
How often is that $150 going to be that?
Well, so if you, the email that I got from Mr. Knight was, within less than a week, he was able to catch up. So the reason is when you have an inspector only coming in 2 days a week, Ms. Alperly was booking people 2 weeks away because Mr. Convoy was already booked up for all next week. So she was telling people 2 weeks. Well, if anybody's ever done any work in their own home, how do you tell somebody to come back in 2 weeks when your kitchen is torn apart? Or
So
your-
this is under Mr. Knight's direction on when he comes in.
Yes,
So I think that's important.
it is. It's under the construction official's direction. It's not my direction.
It's to the benefit of the residents.
Yeah.
And to you catch up, there's a lot of
Yeah.
small construction going on.
So by,
2 weeks he caught.
within two weeks, he was able to catch up that
Oh,
quickly.
that's great.
So,
Well, I would say the situation is solved, right?
well, for now, until the new problem occurs.
Well, for now,
Until the next problem.
I think it's good.
You just say yes.
I did say this every once in a while.
Very good.
Okay, so interim inspector, we'll put that on. Authorization of shared service agreement with the Runnemede security officer, Mr. Captain Chief, whatever your title, Sampolsky. Acting Chief Sampolsky, negotiated a increase for our security officer for the police department. It hadn't been done in 3 years.
Yeah, so when it started.
And so the school board, I think, saw the advantage of having this officer there, understood that it was a good deal for everybody, and
And it's for all 3 schools.
he goes at their direction,
3 schools.
per the police department's
Yeah, it's-
guidelines.
Yep, Officer Brooks is assigned down there, and they love it.
Yeah.
It works, it's fantastic.
So we'll have that on, it was a, you know, like I said, 2% raise or whatever it would be, you know. All right, Barrington Fuel.
We've been doing that for years.
So Barrington Fuel, so we failed to renew the agreement with them. It kind of was on a automatic renewal.
Yeah.
So Mr. Siaco from Barrington had reached out to Mr. Wozon about negotiating some additional terms for this fuel service. At the time, we were, you know, looking into it. There was a time that machine was down, so we went to Magnolia to pick up, to get fuel there. Talked to the police department, talked to all the departments that get fuel. One of the issues that they're having over there right now is they have a gate that closes. So part of the agreement here is that they're going to put remote controls at the gate. The borough will pay for its own remote control, but all the fire vehicles, all the police vehicles, all the public works vehicles will have remote control, be able to go in there and continue. The only thing we're agreeing to is they're obligated to do yearly inspections and maintenance and things like that. Their previous agreement didn't split that cost. They were only basically charging us a nominal administrative,
Flat rate, yeah.
well, administrative fee to the fuel. We use about 55% of the fuel to their 40% or 35%. I think the school district, our school district was doing another 5 or 10%. Since we're nice, we're not going to ask our school district to contribute to it. Ms. Pinto doesn't like that. I would argue that it's going to come out of a different pocket. Think about it. It's the same pocket. Our residents would be charged either way. So if the borough has a relationship with, it's not a big number. We're talking about maybe $100 a month we would pay towards the maintenance and repair of the, is that about right? Remember reading what the maintenance was? She's gonna be a dirty look now. So. It's about $1,200, $1,500 a year. You saw it.
What were we paying before?
We're paying a flat fee for the fuel plus 5%. Now we're asking flat fee, 5%.
5% and 1,200.
No, and 50% of any maintenance and repairs.
Which comes to 1,200.
It varies. Some years it's up, some years it's down.
Well, are there
Well,
better
here-
deals around? Are there any better deals?
There are no better deals, and I would argue that the police department thinks it's very convenient to go there. Public Works thinks it's very convenient. The only problem that they brought up was the gates, correct?
Yes.
Correct?
Is the price equivalent to Wawa?
No, it's much cheaper. We don't pay taxes. We don't pay profit. We used to have our own pumps in this town, and we are still dealing with it. So it makes it clear, we don't want to be in the fuel business. So we have three options. We have Belmar, Barrington, and Magnolia have their own fuel. I think I think Mike is being very, very reasonable, and I think it's not a huge cost. If he puts these gate openers in, they're putting up almost, what is it, $6,000 or $7,000 to put the gate opener.
They're here to put it in.
Yeah, so what that does for us is, think about our employees have to get out of their vehicles, there's potential of getting injured, getting in and out of the vehicle, all those terrible things that can happen.
It was at the point where we're pulling up there now, drop out, open, shut, gas, open. It's like we're there for 1 second.
Yeah.
10 years from now, we won't have this worry, everything will be electric.
Well, the police department, once again, they brought it up to me last night about how the officers who are driving the hybrid cars have noticed a substantial amount of time that's been saved by not having to fuel up, not having to, all that time to go get fuel. They're
The
saving.
main thing is the needle won't move on a 3-day work week.
Not a bad comment,
Yeah.
right?
Well, because they were idling it so much, and they're not
I
like,
won. I was hesitant.
Pretty good.
In the beginning, I was like, I don't know, officers sometimes, but not one negative thing since they landed in this lot.
yeah.
It's good choice, Brett.
Well, next year there'll be more.
Yes.
Thank you.
So does everyone see, is that okay? Does everyone understand it's a little give and take? I would argue that, I think it's fair. I think it's fair. They're not asking us they're not making 25% of us, We would mark things up, we would mark it up.
So this is a new agreement with Barrington?
It'll be a new one, which will be a recurring. You agree, it should re-up every,
Three?
Reevaluate every few years.
Three.
Pretty much be an auto renewal, like the original one.
So on
was, but
July
not
6th,
quite
we'll
the
have
way
it.
that one was.
Is there an agreement somewhere?
their council is putting one together
Oh.
for us to review, because they're the sharing service municipality. They'll send it to us,
Okay.
and then we'll review it. But if council approves the agreement, I told you the terms pretty much, that's the terms. It's what we've been doing for years, the only thing we want to add is that it's just that we split the cost of repairs. They've already incurred the big cost to redo the whole pump station. They're only asking us to maintain it and things like that. And once again, it would only be a maintenance type of issue. If they decide that they want to revamp the whole system, they would have to negotiate with us. But then we would partially own, like we own the truck wash. So, that's a dirty one. All right, property maintenance liens, what was the total amount, 3,500?
What's this DOT application?
Oh, I missed it.
What's that?
That's the one for,
Oh, Forest Avenue, Manor
Forest
Court.
Manor and Bowers.
I'm gonna let the engineer report that.
2022 applications are being solicited by DOT for our grants, for our annual road grant. So we're going to get a resolution at the next meeting for Forest, Manor, and Bowers. And then on the second page, first page of our report, we call it the limits. So as discussed with the engineering committee, this would be what we're going for, and hopefully receive a substantial grant for 2023.
Well, none of these roads really go out to a main road. You think we'll get the grant?
Well,
Be honest.
Well, the good one is Forest is Clements Road, so that ties it in, and we're trying to group in, and we've been doing this, trying to group in multiple roads, because if it's included under a grant program, it's more likely that we could possibly get funding for it in the future.
All right.
So we believe that Forest will score the highest, and then hopefully the other ones will be included in the work area, and we can kind of continue that on.
And then council can always
It's good to hear.
decide.
It is good to hear, because That road is in
With
serious.
the gas tanks, that was finally, brought about a few years ago, approximately 4 years ago. We had a couple of lean years prior to that where it was very, very, very competitive, where some years we did not get a DOT grant. As long as we follow what they prescribe as the criteria, we should be okay with this application and we should be successful.
Well, let's hope so.
And we can always put it on any money.
Yeah.
That is something
Yeah,
we
but-
could do.
Let's try to use the same framework.
I agree with that. I agree, and during, in the application, though, do we always say that we put some of our own?
We do not.
We
So
do
right
not.
now, we try to form the most advantageous application that we believe will get funded, and you'll get your, 200,000 or 300,000, that's what we're hoping for. And then for the roads that absolutely will not score in the criteria, that's where you're doing your road programs. Because we
Okay.
know certain roads absolutely will not score
I know.
and not even be close. So that's how we have to weigh, can we get grant funding for the ones that are linked to like Cummins Springs? That's what we're trying to do.
The Manor Court is 2 dead-end streets,
Yeah, I know.
so that would be our fund.
It's bad too.
Yeah. Okay, I apologize. Now back to property maintenance liens.
3,700.
So 3,700, so just to be clear, everyone, if people don't cut their grass, and Public Works has to go cut their grass, we're out there cutting it, and that's what this represents. And one property alone was $850, correct?
Close to it, yes.
Now, how do we get paid? These are liens, right?
Yeah, it's tough, so we're warning people,
Tax sale.
and if they don't pay us, it gets sold at tax sale, and then it's 18% interest.
Yeah.
So it's
The
tough.
bill is sent.
But it's constantly
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, they do get the bill.
They get a bill. Oh, they don't get a bill, they get just a notice of a lien.
Oh, just,
No, they were notified already by Keith, correct? That they had to cut their grass.
Oh, yeah, they're.
Or-
Do they know it's $850 at this point yet?
I don't know.
No.
Should we send them a bill?
So the point is, we sent them the notice of the lien, but
Yes.
there are notices left and right before we get to that
Correct.
point.
But do we notice them of the lien?
Well, we'll get notice of doing the tax sale.
Right.
They get a
So they don't
lot.
get a notice of the lien until it goes to tax.
But once the grass is cut and they get the notice of the violation or.
Because they're not going to get this notice of tax sale until October,
Correct.
November.
They received notices from Keith prior to them going out to cut the grass.
But it doesn't tell them how much.
Because we don't know how much, that's the
No, we
point.
don't know.
So once again, should we tell them now that we cut the grass, what the cost is?
Send them the bill after.
Why, are we gonna get paid?
Well, you wouldn't
Well,
know until you got it.
I feel,
Exactly, that's what he said.
I mean, waiting for it to go to tax sale, people getting taxed up.
John might stop the second or third time if they see.
Yeah, we have to keep cutting the grass.
I think I see where he thinks going.
If we send them a bill and they know it's $850, that gentleman, I mean, I feel bad. He
Well,
hopefully
most
knows.
of them aren't. They're $211.
But even
I don't
$211.
feel bad because this has been going on for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes, don't feel
Okay,
bad.
and
But let me, but listen to the question. It's been going on for 2 years. Mr. Wozok, how many times you cut the grass in the past 2 years with that property?
this was the first time we were able to.
So it was the first time. We didn't cut the grass for 2 years. So even though we've been yelling at this
It's
guy,
meant to be a last resort. You're not meant.
last resort is 2 years?
So, because of COVID. That was.
We were stopped from going, code came in when notice was given and couldn't go in front of the judge at the time because this was when it was under the construction office. Now that things have changed, we changed our policy last year to where 10-day notice and we're going on the property. So last year, because of COVID, that also, we made that change. We never got onto it. The police department ourselves knocked on the door and tried to get the person to
Okay.
cut it before we.
Shelley can decide. Do we send them the bill now to let them get, so that they pay us?
Generally, the policy is it goes through code enforcement. Once it's gone through code enforcement, and then they are given the authorization to go on the property and do the maintenance, that maintenance then becomes a lien. That notification is no longer required.
So there's no reason to send them a bill.
It then gets to tax sale.
Just because, remember.
I don't like it, but
If you're underestimating the steps that it takes to get there. That's, if it was.
I'm not underestimating mistakes. I got yelled at,
The steps.
and I was gonna go cut the grass myself, just so I didn't get yelled at anymore.
And even
If
if,
Shelley, if you guys don't wanna do it, I'm listening to you two guys. You don't
Yeah.
wanna send them a bill.
You can, the steps have to be taken the same way for
Okay.
every
And then you're
issue on
showing-
every property.
Do we do it the same way?
And you have to remember, once tax sale process starts, they will get 2 notices of that amount that they can pay prior to the sale.
When does interest start to accrue?
Not until it's
The
sold,
tax-
Not until
because we
it's-
don't charge interest.
We don't charge
In
interest.
fact, they'll get the notice of the tax level for.
We charge any interest?
Correct.
Okay. So it's interest-free until...
Right of redemption, all that stuff.
Okay.
If we do it for them,
So
we'll do it for all.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Nick. Now, this guy sees that bill, he might start cutting his grass, but now he doesn't cut it, which he hasn't cut it since you were out there, what, 2 weeks ago?
He hasn't cut it again?
No. So the point is,
We'll be, it's on our return to list.
So you're going to return it and be another
if
bill?
he knows that, he might get off his backside,
But I understand the legal side, that you guys are saying it's a process we have to follow.
He was shown that day with the police officers that he's being billed for.
Okay, so he knew.
He knows.
You know well.
He knew.
Okay.
Look,
But I understand, I look at guys who just cut his grass.
Yeah.
And that's the process that goes, that is what goes into it before we take those steps.
And I think this will change it because we had the mass foreclosure now.
That was bad.
And the borough was doing 90 homes, full contract. You're adding more steps in time for us to get involved.
Just a second.
This was never a problem in the last 5 years. that I've been-
Well, the only thing that I would like to see is not waiting till the end of the summer to file. Because foreclosures might start to come up again. We need to put these things on the record as soon as possible. Because, right, we've been cutting grass now for a couple months.
This is the second batch of this attorney.
Okay, so this is the second batch?
Yeah.
As long as we do it every,
You don't have one batch? Okay. Then that's when we just, matter of fact, yeah, that's when we just start again. So now you'll.
well, we should do another one in August.
Every time we cut, a week later.
I can tell you the dates on them if you need to.
No,
know.
No, we'll deal with it later. I just don't want them to linger too long. Okay, property maintenance, we went over, body cam resolution. We did that this evening, so everybody's happy with that.
You have to put on.
61,000.
And then,
That would be different, is that the other resolution?
Yeah, that's the other one.
What's that?
We have to put another one on Tuesday for the body cameras.
Okay.
They're making us sign our lives away for this.
That's okay. And then ordinance selling property off of Sherrington Lane. This is the 7-year project to get rid of the land behind the active. So we finally are at a point where the school district has agreed to sell it or buy it from us for, I think, $1. And so I think we just have to pass an ordinance. Does everyone understand, remember this? So what we did is we separated the property to give some a buffer and an easement to the property owners. The school district is going to take this landlocked property. They're going to maintain it. They're going to cut the grass, which Mr. Wozop's been doing since he's been here.
Any idea what they're going to do?
You know, there was lots of talk about lots of different things. So the only thing we could say is that the restriction they have on it is school uses. As long as it's school uses, it shouldn't be a problem to those residents.
I think so, yeah.
So it's not big enough for a true field,
bands coming through.
but it could be marching bands practice.
Enjoy it.
I won't forget, I got it.
You got it?
I got it. So does anybody have any problems with that? I mean, it's finally happening. And then the last thing I want to do before we get to the other stuff is, our judge, his appointment expired on the 6th. I did reach out to him and asked him if he wanted to be reappointed. And he called me back and said he would like to be reappointed. So without any objections, I would like to say, I have no problem that he gets reappointed. Does anybody have any objections? Does anybody have anything? I mean, one year we actually sat in the audience and watched. That was good. And we made Mr. Nick Trebosh come in.
That wasn't it.
That was, he loved it. He loved it. How was it not? Nick came in, he worked the room.
You ever do that to me?
Said he was going to.
So without objection, I'd like to actually walk that on tonight, because I think we should get it done.
Okay.
Right?
I agree.
So ordinance 2197 will be the reappointment for, it's a 3-year term. Resolution, a 3-year appointment for Ryan Trebosh as municipal judge.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Neary, second by Ms. Kelly. Mr. Farrell was not quick enough. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
And Mr. Renier?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Resolution is
Good.
second.
That's good.
Now, we'll do payment of bills, then we'll go around the room. I know a bill this was sent out by Chris. Would someone like to make a motion to pay the monthly bills?
I'll make a motion to pay the monthly bills.
I'll second. A motion by Ms. Passios, second by Mr. Lobenstein. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes?
Mr. Lobenstein?
Yes.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
And Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Resolution is, payment of bills will be paid. We're going to go a little different order tonight, since we're very honored to have Mr. Bach here this evening. So we're going to let Mr. Bach go
I have
first.
nothing to say.
Come on, you've got, go through. I want to see how much you know. I want to see.
I know enough, but we submitted our written report. The only thing I wanted to bring everyone's attention is the resolution for the 2022 NJDOT grant. Unless there's any questions on this specific project, I know the mayor probably has 30 of them, but I'm going to say after the meeting for you, and Mr. Williams, I can go through some of the details.
Well, the only thing I'd like council to at least know about before, if we want to have a little sidebar meeting, is we talked about the road programs, so the audience knows also, the borough last year did get $475,000 from road programs, so we did do very well last year, so hopefully we can do well again. And that's for North and South Highland Avenue and Second Avenue. To do the intersection at Second Avenue by the firehouse and then all the way past Downing. Mr. Farrell, we walked out there and make sure sidewalks were getting done, things like that, to make sure the project is done completely, that we took a little extra feet here, fixing a tree, fixing an apron, those kind of things. I did want to bring up, before you go on, the survey for the Public Works
Yes.
facility, just so everyone in the council knows that council did authorize Mr. Brock's company to go out there and survey the property. That's important, not only for this project we're doing with the CCNUA, the issues that they're having, but I think the council has to realize that the Public Works is going to need some facilities down there for all the equipment that we've been purchasing and the work that they do right now.
What kind of facility?
They need a building. They basically need a building to house
A lot of the
What
equipment
do you
is
think,
stored
like a
outside.
pole barn?
a pole barn, exactly. A pole barn with garage doors.
A lot of the stuff that Aries bought has been stored outside.
Council barn.
Council.
And
But,
I know for a perfect example, the
It's stored
80,000
outside.
pump was brand new, it's stored outside, it's no longer brand new, and it deteriorated for no reason.
Which place?
An 8-inch Copland pump, one of our large backup pumps, when we
Okay.
have sewer failures at pump stations. So that was a brand new piece of equipment. 15 years ago, it was not used because we were fortunate with our emergencies, but the piece of equipment now, because it's stored outside, has deteriorated. It's almost going to cost as much to fix it as it is to get another one. So one other point I just want to put on the survey is the majority of this property, Public Works, is the former sewage authority property. It's surrounded completely by wetlands. We know that there's wetlands because of DEPI map and our physical inspections. This will finally put a line on the wetlands and the wetlands buffer so that we can operate safely for where we're putting our trash packers.
So what you're saying is you're going to be raising up
No.
this building?
No, what we're saying is we are going to use the yard to make sure we are not in environmentally sensitive areas, which we are not sure of right now.
The survey is going to clarify where the fences should be and where
your
things
buffer
should be.
be. And
elevations, correct?
We did provide a buffer estimate, but it was never verified by the DEP. We did that for fencing approximately
12 years ago.
Is
Is
it
this gonna prevent-
The topographical map?
It's elevations, topographical,
The sewer-
delineation.
Last June or the June before, the sewer backed up and
that is an issue not with the running sanitary sewer system, but the CCNUA system. So we are going to actually survey our property that surrounds their pump station.
Right.
We will provide that information to the CCNUA as a courtesy, so they know what our elevations are.
Yeah.
And from a meeting with the CCNUA and representatives of the borough,
is it smart though to put a building that's on that kind of dangerous kind of property?
it wouldn't be
Because
downstream.
is that smart?
But it wouldn't be downstream from the CCNUA flow path. So there are, the right side of the Public Works right now is impacted by sanitary sewer overflows in the CCN way, we would not be putting any sort of structures in that area. I'm going to say, looking in my head, at the plan, it'd probably be in the back to the left as you're looking at it from the road, which is
Elevated.
it's the higher side, but we do not know what exactly is usable ground, meaning uplands, and which is in buffers, or which is going to be considered to be buffers by the DEP until we go through this exercise.
I don't know if it's so smart to put a building down.
But Mr. Bach didn't finish. The CCNUA, the meeting we had with them was for them to start to compensate us, basically, help us out so it won't happen again. The idea is that they're gonna have
Other
floods again.
places where we can put this
The
building?
building is excellent down there. The issue is first we need to
No,
know,
the new building.
Yes.
Is there another place where we can put this new building? I don't see why we would want to put it on ground that's not.
Where else in town will we put it?
And Kelly, I'm not talking about a new facility, like a new public works facility where the new offices are.
No, we're talking about a pole barn.
It's correct. So
Concrete floor.
concrete floor, correct. Pole barn, that type of thing, storage facility with minimal electrical and minimal heat. That's
I'm
all.
worried about the elevation.
I will bring back to the engineering committee and bring back to all of council the topographic survey
Okay.
with the DEP wetlands delineated, with our understanding, and we have a lot of understanding because we physically have seen it, where the flow goes from the CCN way.
I know where.
And it goes right through the left-hand side. We actually had a former structure down there that was partially washed away. I don't know how many years ago that was. I believe that's when Mr. Gunn was still here.
well, we had it several occasions.
Yeah.
We've had several occasions.
So we will make.
But the
sure-
CCNUA has made a commitment to fix this problem.
But
But they asked-
You think the CCMUA is going to be paying
Yes.
attention to us?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely,
And
110%.
I would love to see that then.
We had the director of the CCNUA down there with us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Schreiber, good friend, he's a
Yes.
good guy. He will absolutely.
Absolutely.
Pay attention to us. You have our
Okay.
word.
And the elevation,
And
Eleanor, is about 6 or 8 feet where this proposed building would go. You agree? It's at least 6 to 8
What do
feet
you
high.
say? Howard?
Tell her, Harry.
I'm working with the engineer, the facility is good, and we're working with the CC on that.
She wants to hear that that location is a good location and that the building will be safe.
Yes.
We will make it work, and we will take all steps that we will take and work with every necessary party to make it safe, because we don't want you
I
upset
trust
with
you,
us.
Steve.
I will make
If you
sure-
say it'll work,
I will make sure it's
and that
outside
this
the
pole
flow.
barn won't wash away, I'm happy with that.
First step is exactly what we're doing. We're measuring the ground. We're getting the elevations, and we're actually delineating the environmental.
Okay.
If we pass one, which is that, then we will set the building and look at the building and also and we know one of the worst sanitary sewer overflows that we've had in a long, I think ever, is the one recently. And we know the extent that went up
And
on our property.
it didn't harm the ground that you're thinking of, it didn't
That's-
flow that way?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's why we're going to do that. So this is.
Are you okay with this, Harry? Are you okay with all that's going on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, trust me.
Mrs. Kelly, can I negotiate a caveat with you real quick? If there's a hurricane that knocks down that building, we're gonna disclaim that from our representation of the building, okay? Because Docs of God, right? In terms of normal, run-of-the-mill kinds of things, we're gonna be okay.
Okay.
All right, let me continue, I'm sorry. I read the report before we got here tonight. Evesham Road sidewalk, is everyone aware that there's a new sidewalk going in? PSE&G, yep, the county did their part, PSE&G put their sidewalk
Did
in.
their part with the installation of the storm sewer.
So, we are gonna reimburse them for that?
They did already. It's been done for years.
I don't recall us doing it or being,
We had.
That was done in February,
Oh, okay.
not years, but yeah.
but not by us.
No, that was done under the county's project.
Yeah, we may have to reimburse them for part of that.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about that, because the last thing I talked to the county superintendent was that they had additional problems there, and they redid the entire pipe from Gloucester Township into Runnemede.
Let's just hope we don't get a bill.
I hope we don't get it back.
Can I just backtrack for a minute?
No. No, I got a gavel. You're gonna get gavel. All right, continue, we're gonna be here too long. So just let everybody know that's happening. Tax maps. We do wanna make sure our tax maps and our maps are up to date. One of the things council did do is they approved tax maps. We can talk later after we talk to Mr. Bob. Just wanna make sure all these maps are correct. One of the things I think Mr. Ranieri has been really pointing out is that a lot of this information needs to be out there for prospective people. This green team, money we got for the website. So what I did is I have a copy of the redevelopment zone map. That needs to be on the website. That needs to be prominent and out there.
I thought it was.
You gotta look for it a little bit harder
Oh.
and things like that. I was at Harry's office the other day. I really enjoyed seeing some of the maps that he had. I am a map guy. You know, the sewer maps, the paper street maps, those kind of things are important. I know we fight about paper streets all the time, but it is nice so that people know that those streets do not exist. The Public Works Department knows that, the Fire Department knows that. You guys, we pay for all this data. I'd like to see it on our website. I believe it's public information unless you feel that it's not in the public information. It's
We
in
have to
those.
look at which maps are certified, for
Okay.
lack of a better term.
So we're not misrepresenting.
Zoning map, redevelopment map, tax maps, absolutely. Some of the working maps, I would not want to have out there without it going through Public Works.
Okay.
Only because of, for instance, some of the sanitary sewer maps. They are accurate to the point that physically we could get to an individual manhole. Some manholes still are currently under pavement or something that we have not been able to.
Well, we could disclose that these are.
I know about disclosure, but once you put them out there, someone relies upon them and they build something to it. So rather than come through the normal process.
Well, how's the normal process?
Normal process is they contact the superintendent of public works and they come and examine the maps and discuss with the sewer department their proposed, and they file their application.
Because one of the reasons we've been running into
I would
is.
hate to see a consulting firm take the map, design a full development or something off of a map that may have one additional manhole or something else that's in that case. So those certain tools, I think, are important for public works to have and have available, but I don't know if those are certified type of maps we put on our website.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because we've been here and had manhole covers covered by garages. We've had our previous councils rescind easements, and then we're fighting to get easements back. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I would argue is worse than representing something as that, because when I'm looking at this information, and I'm looking at it, and I'm one of the people who looks at it and says, you know, we've got an easement going through a property, and Public Works, you know, it's been, the manhole cover's been completely covered, you know.
A perfect rationale for that is Mr. Knight should have a full set of the as-built as
Okay.
well. So before he issues a building permit or a zoning permit, he would be able to ask that question, hey, I have sanitary, go ask the question about sanitary going into that property at all. So, but Mr. Knight should be.
But why would we be afraid of a guy coming in and doing a survey and him having that ability to say, you know what, I see the borough shows this, even if it's, you know, how many times have we seen that? Bassett Avenue, it's a classic example, where that gentleman purchased the property, had no idea that stormwater went through there, his garage collapsed. I mean, I'm a reactionary guy, I'm trying to be proactive. Trying to be proactive.
So here's the difference. The difference is when something is a set, finalized, you know, done kind of thing, like a zoning map, for example.
We paid $80,000, how is that not a good map?
But you have to.
Sorry.
There's difference between what you advertise, put on your website and advertise out there and what it really is, or something you get via an Oprah request because you can couch it the right way. So in other words, what I'm saying is it's when it has the final stamp of approval and is the official thing, that's when I think it can go on the website.
Right.
Otherwise, it's good to
Your tax maps are certified by the Division of Taxation. So, and they're updated every so often, they're recertified. Your zoning map is done by ordinance.
Yes.
These as-bills are working documents that are accurate to the greatest extent because it's not a brand new town. We measured it, you know, 100 years after the sewer went in.
I understand.
The other thing that I think is very important is we have several storms, several sewer lines that are going through properties but there's no record of any easements that we have or anything else. So I would like to further that discussion, but I'd be more comfortable if the maps are in the hands of the Department of Public Works, zoning for a key, so he can look at it, so before he gets a garage permit, that he can look at it and say, all right, there's a question if there's something there, which would solve your problem, but.
I just keep running into these issues, and I'm only gonna keep bringing them up every time.
Plus, you know, if I'm not mistaken,
You'll find it very rare that even cities or large MUAs or anybody else publishes their as-bills on.
So that makes it right, that no one else
No,
does it?
because it's really not, it's not appropriate to put you in a liability sense, because you are publishing a document that could be relied upon by the public. And they would say if they design something without making the appropriate steps and finding out everything, that they design something based on what you represent.
It's got to be put on its own website and represented to us that this was fully accurate. It's implied by putting it on your website, that's your seal of approval.
Even with a disclaimer on there, it says this is an as-built.
Disclaimer,
On it.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I would also say we've had some stormwater issues, and some of the homes in the flood of June 20th, what year, 2019 was that? And we've already made alterations to some of our stormwater draining systems and the Harry's, you know, that probably didn't make the updated list. And we have plans to do future ones and things along that nature. And if there's any challenges with some homes as storms come down the road, we don't want the liability.
Well, what I-
You know what the first ordinance was that I sponsored when I became member of council?
Probably told me, but I forgot.
You remember what the first one I did? It was a fee to update the maps every time we did a subdivision or a lot consolidation. Because we hadn't updated since 1988. Everybody remember this? We didn't update the maps since 1988. This is what I'm talking about. This kicking the can drives me crazy.
I don't think it's-
I agree with you. We had 300 feet of stormwater. It should have been updated on that map immediately. You know, when Joyce does the resolutions, they get updated and put in there. That's all I'm putting back.
It's public information.
I mean, look at that map. That's right in front of you. That map is so inaccurate. It is unbelievable how inaccurate it is.
Let's fix it.
No. That's just the tax map that's inaccurate.
So, for the issue regarding sanitary sewer, I would do what almost every other municipality or MUA that has them. You publish on the website, by the way, you can.
And that would be a compromise.
Public Works.
Yes.
And or you can have the maps, you know, at Keith's office or at Harry's office, and usually they're in the lobby, and they can go like this, but it's different than publishing on the
Wow.
website.
It is.
Okay, then I agree. If we can give them, if we can give them to people, I would like to go more electronic and advertise when he provides it, that it is just the current as-built that wasn't always updated at every moment.
Right, and we can give, as an engineer or a public works, we can give excerpts of it, because usually it's an email, and if it's an email and it says, by the way, this is,
Yes.
you at your own risk. If it's on the website,
I understand that.
you know, all we're trying to do is just protect the town.
But we did these maps, not just for us, but we did them for everybody. in the
Right, and they're
town.
available to the public, but it has to be in the right format.
Yeah.
I mean, the right.
And certain ones were good putting on there.
I'll beat you up later after the meeting.
Okay.
Veterans War Memorial.
I know you will, sir.
Veterans War Memorial, just want to give everybody an update on that, Mr. Wozon. What was the thing you said, it was 6 months before that marble comes in?
6 to 7 months back order on the marble, and they're playing with the steep over, so.
That's not, it comes from overseas.
It took us a while to get the paperwork squared away, but with that, that's what we're faced with. So I wanted to pass that on to everybody. So we're gonna leave the current, in place, and when it comes closer to where they start scheduling with us, that's when we'll do.
So just so you know that, remember we approved that?
Yes.
He put the purchase order in and they said 6 months. So I didn't want anybody to think we were making it done.
This is going to replace the brick.
The brick.
And I mean, it'll match similar to the other monuments there.
And the last thing I wanted to say to everyone is we walked the sewer extension project, and that keeps getting closer. But one of the things I want to make sure everyone understands, everyone knows Davis and that road. I think it's important that we continue to make pedestrian safety and those kind of things, you know, a priority. No. The point though is that we have to plan. So the drawings have to show proper sidewalks, proper driveways, proper aprons and things like that. I know the funding, we have to always be considered the funding, but I think these should be some of our priorities to do these things. When we walked Second Avenue, the kids walked to Downing School. One of the things that was suggested by the engineer was putting a sidewalk in where there was no sidewalk. And I think that that's something we've done a lot. And I would argue that Davis Road, I'm not talking about the dead-end streets, I'm talking about Davis is a major thoroughfare. That sidewalk should be improved as much as we can. Once again, that's the caveat. I think everyone questions, well, how much we can do. We do as much as we can. That's all I'm going to say about that. But it has to be done at the design stage.
Yeah, but it's not on Sunset, it's not on Evergreen.
No.
The 3 dead-end streets is only on Davis that we're filling in missing sidewalks and replacing sidewalks that are deteriorated,
Or making improvements.
or even changing how the sidewalks are on the property.
What's the time frame for this project? It's been pushed forward so many times.
And then her name
And it is, and I will say, the reason there was no sanitary sewer in that section of town for years is because it is so extremely difficult on how to do this project. We have environmental constraints down the bottom, we have physical constraints because we have streets going completely in the wrong direction from all our other sewer. And we have 3 streets that have varying dips in the middle of them. My hope and my goal is I'm actually going to be meeting with Harry and they're right after this for some of the hopefully last bells and whistles of constructability. How do we physically construct 20 feet deep sewers in this neighborhood, keep everybody being able to move around, and keep all the fire safety, emergency management. It's going to be a very complicated process. I would anticipate that it would start in 2021 and be completed in 2022.
So you're thinking in the fall it will start?
Fall or winter.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's trying to make sure I don't get reelected, so he figures.
I'm
Tough.
Right during my campaign,
so.
he wants to piss everybody off.
In essence, we have sewer up here on Davis Road, CCNUA sewer, and our sewer is down a little past the 2 developments. And that is, let's just call it elevation 20. And we have all the other properties going downhill, less than elevation 20. That's the closest you can connect in the lowest sewer there. And then we have the roadways actually dip back up at the end. And each roadway has 3 different locations of dips. So by the time you connect all these dots, I have sections of sewer that are 20 to 25 feet deep before I can get to the pump station over at Evergreen. And I have to work within narrow roadways, and I still have to provide emergency access to all these properties.
It's unbelievable, it's so complicated, it's unbelievable, and we still have to just make council aware.
It is going to be,
It's massive.
It's already been a challenging project, even through the permitting and the design stage. And it's going to be a challenging project during construction. And it is going to be,
But when it's done, these homes will no longer have these sewer issues.
It's the right thing to
The
do.
police department will be able to turn around at the end of the street, the fire company, the trucks, the emergency aspect of it will be
People
fixed.
living there will appreciate it.
Other
Yeah.
sections of town have had sewer for 100 years.
Yeah.
And it's high time that in a mature suburban community like Runnemede, that there should not be a large pocket of residences that have been around since
We have,
the 50s.
we have
and 60s.
faith in Bach Associates.
Yeah, so, but I know the question is, yes, it's been a long time coming. We had a lot of other steps that we had to address, which we call the fatal fall steps. One of which 2 of the ones that were, I believe, absolutely critical to this process, you heard the mayor report on this before, is the connection fees for the CCNUA for the residents on that area that's going to be connected, where they would not be incurring, I think the current connection fee is $8,000 per home. So we had to go through that process with the CCNUA. First time the CCNUA went through that process, so now they gave their legal printing. That was a very large obstacle. The second large obstacle was where we need to do the pump station at the end of Evergreen. We needed to secure property from New Jersey American Water.
Right, pay on that property.
That was the last step I wanted to
Yeah,
make sure they.
but that step was a 6-month step. So now we're at the point where we believe we're secure, but we have some constructability issues, which I need to, just run through everybody to make sure that actually we'll get bids and we will get it at a decent price. So if this was a simple road job, I'd be much happier, but this is not only a set of.
I didn't know it was that complicated.
It is very, very complicated, and that's why, as aggressive as John Gomes Sr. was, and John Gomes Sr., if he could have served us, I'm sure he would have. But actually, some of the things right now for constructability might be only 10-year-old technology, which I need to go over with Harry and the mayor, or how we have to install some of these lines. So.
And remember, we had to get 100 people based on your agreement to do all this stuff. I can't get
The
5
tricky
people
part
to agree
is,
to do
the
something.
tricky part is, they have to pay for the line from their toilets
Absolutely.
out to the connection.
But they got a waiver of $8,000. Anybody who put a septic system.
Right. But
Which
they
cost
still have-
$25,000.
But they still have to run a sewer line from their houses to it. And some of those houses are way back.
They are.
And Eleanor, that's, and I'm sorry.
Miss Keller.
I keep going, Eleanor, sorry. But that's one of the challenges of why we have so many steps. So we actually looked at all the setbacks, we ran the calculations for the plumbing code, and that's why the in and out in front of our homes
Yes.
are not a standard 4 foot, they're 7 foot deep. Because most likely, with a very rare occurrence, everyone will be able to come out by gravity. We believe everybody's going to be able to come out by gravity to that 7 foot clean out.
Well,
So
there's a couple houses on Davis that might need ejector pumps to
They-
pump
they
sewage
may.
from their house.
They may, but going deeper than 7 feet at the curb, that is the maximum extent that we could recommend, because it translates down and it makes everything else deeper all the way across. But we believe that the way we have it set right now, everyone should be able to come out from the back of their homes. We
Right.
actually measured every single home and the distance to it. They should be able to come to the back of their homes and be able to connect up by gravity.
They say, stuff rolls downhill, so.
And rolls right on top of it, you go to the right?
Well, we'll talk a little bit after the meeting, and I appreciate that. We're gonna go a little different order since we went out of order this past time. We're gonna go to Shelley next. Shelley, did you have anything you wanted to add this evening?
I'm gonna allow John, Councilman Mayor.
Well, there you go. That was very diplomatic.
Should I take over?
You can, if you want to just pair on there.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, John.
Good to see everybody, all your faces, instead of on my computer screen. In finance today, we were able to secure a fantastic loan for our bond anticipation note of $3,800,158. We got a great interest rate of 0.325, which is a very good interest rate on a bond, on a band. We closed today, and that bond takes care of, I believe, some of the projects we were just talking about, Nick, right? That's the sewer projects in there, isn't it?
No, the sewer
That's
project
not
is
it?
done through the state of New Jersey. They're basically want us to, they're the ones who are gonna do this long-term financing for this type of project.
Okay, I
This is
believe-
such a unique project.
I thought there were some funds in there
Yes,
for
it
that.
was, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about some of the soft costs.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the soft costs.
159 costs and some.
Yep, in addition to a lot of the projects we're doing, a lot of the vehicles we're purchasing, the Harry Williams building, the roof,
Yes.
a lot of repairs and things like that. So we're very excited about that rate. In addition to that, funding for the American Rescue Plan, that's the coronavirus recovery funds. We have, our funding will be available the next couple of weeks, 10 to 14 days. And I think the number was already talked about, $868,000. That's going to go towards a lot of our expenses during the pandemic, labor, extra payroll, extra costs, things along that nature. So we're glad to get that. I think we'll be getting those funds over a 2-year period, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Basically, okay, we talked about the body cameras. We have that grant. And we're looking forward to get the body cameras installed. I know that the chief likes them. And we're staying with the company that we had for the last couple of years for the car cameras. We had the cameras that were on each police vehicle. Now they're going to have them on their uniforms. So that's going to do nothing but protect our officers, and no more he said, she said. It's going to be on tape, so that's good. And the rest is progress.
All right, thank you, John. So we'll do the same thing. How about Harry and Craig? You want to go as a team, or?
Just a list of some of the things Public Works has been doing. Checking the sewer stations, responding to calls for backups as needed, recycling, yard waste. I want to also say that Public Works has done just a great job through the pandemic, never missing a day on recycling and the yard waste, the little things like that. They're also maintaining borough properties, cutting and mulching. So they're cleaning up the Black Horse Lake, getting ready for the parade. Cleaned up the bike path, Al's Field behind there. And there was a complaint about the field behind Deluxe Bakery. That's been cleaned up. Street sweepers out. They installed a split rail fence at the end of Shepherd. That looks very nice. And maintaining property maintenance issues with bills submitted tonight. The bus will start back up next week. Please follow the Borough webpage and Facebook for a weekly schedule. All riders must wear a mask, even if vaccinated. And we are still looking for part-time bus drivers. Apply at the clerk's office, $18 an hour. And as far as recreation for Mr. Shapiro, maintaining borough fields and parks as needed. The fence at girls softball has been repaired, and bathroom at Beaver Branch Park has been repaired also. And the rest is progress.
All right, thank you. Harry, did you want to add anything?
The only thing is, I don't know if we need to, we're pre-discussion about Nicky Jr. starting back up, need a resolution again, because it's been a while since he's been one.
When he just continue as an employee, if he was a part-time employee that was appointed previously?
That was from Beth with the payroll. And then his rate's changing, so we have to do that for.
I've learned the key to survival here is not to cross that.
All right, do you want to give us that information, and we'll put it on as a resolution? Yeah, just add his part-time bus driver or whatever.
Tomorrow you'll have everything first, thank you. But I just wanted to make sure. everybody-
So he's going to do it for us twice a week?
He's gonna do it as long as he can fit it in with his work schedule. So with that, I'll add a probably 2-week notice of what he's gonna be doing.
So we can tell people?
Yeah, we'll put it on Facebook and the webpage, and we're following CDC guidelines, because public transportation still have to wear a mask regardless of it. So we're doing that, and it's limited on how many people could be on the bus.
Okay.
Okay. So
How many do you think will be allowed?
I think it's
half?
We're trying to, I think it's a little bit more than half.
It's more than half
Yeah, so
capacity?
we're just getting to it, we just pull the bus out, get the, so it's all distance, with the mask and all that stuff, so.
And you'll let me know so that I can
That's
tell
a
us.
lane.
Yeah, because the biggest one is we're getting phone calls from the runs now, so we'll make sure that gets back up. So that's a big plus, so we'll get that all up, starting.
Thank you.
That's good.
So the schedule will be different every week?
Yes. It'll still be the 3 days that it usually runs, but it might be one day that we don't have a driver.
So it's the same schedule, but we might have to not do a certain
So do
day.
you advise them to call the Borough Garage to find it out what the schedule is? Or go to
The webpage and Facebook, it will be 2-week posting.
Okay, so you'll do it 2 weeks, okay.
We'll do it 2 weeks.
Okay.
Tough.
Those are all people.
Well, we're looking for a driver, so that's why it's being, announced by Director Lobenstein, so.
We tried before the
Anybody?
pandemic to get someone.
And anybody with a CDL license for bus passenger,
With a P.
please,
That's it.
and we're being competitive at $18 an
CDL
hour,
with a P. Passenger.
so.
Okay. There it is.
Unless there's questions?
Bob, did you want to be up to the mic a little bit before we move on?
Well, thank God you did some things that I was going to say, and you said it much better, so that, and Jay, DOT application, which is due July 1st, we talked about Maverick Road, Powers Avenue, and Forest Avenue, and we we talked about.
So we need a resolution of that, Thursday,
Yes,
correct?
and Mark is
We need it on
providing.
Tuesday.
So Tuesday night, we can do it
Yes.
Tuesday night?
Yeah, July 6th.
Mark told me that you don't need the resolution for 30 days after the application's due.
Correct.
So it's due first, and we
Tuesday
could
is
do it
fine.
Tuesday.
And then we'll get.
So we'll do a resolution of those three streets.
Everything's electronic, but they still want 3 hard copies with the original seal. I don't understand that, but that's
Neither do
the
I.
way the DOT works.
Does anybody have a sense of what we can expect from the DOT this year?
No.
No.
No, and I'm hearing that it may be a very favorable year to municipalities, but that's just a rumor, through the DOT hallways. Because they advance the application schedule, which is usually a sign that they're trying to do something to spark, New Jersey.
Well, I wonder, the infrastructure bill and all that, is that all part of it?
Hasn't happened.
That's not part of the DOT thing, so the DOT is the gas tax. So let's cross our fingers that we're as successful as we have been in the last few years. Sorry.
No, that's great, thank you. Beaver Branch Park, lights are up.
Oh, yeah, I
Very
heard
good.
Yeah, I don't know, are they on? How do they look?
I know they work, I haven't been here in no time, but I'm still in operation.
I haven't seen
Good. I was glad, I wrote down yesterday, it looked good. And, last thing, Phillips Avenue, Schuster Circle, and South Reed, that all-way stop sign.
Oh, that's on for, I think the engineer's report.
We were.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's going to recommend an ordinance to be required.
All right, so that's going to go on then, so a resolution to put a stop sign in.
next week.
That was part, the police department asked for it, the engineer signed off on it. So next week, we'll put a resolution to put that stop sign.
Oh, there it is, Phillips Avenue,
Stop
Schuster
sign?
Circle.
Steve,
Yeah, there it is.
Wait, you said stop sign?
All way.
It's an ordinance, so we'll do first reading.
yes, but is it going to need
It's-
so many feet on the southwest?
No, I believe we have an ordinance that already has, I think there's an ordinance that we can tell you where to insert it into, or to stop control intersections, I believe, don't we have that?
Yeah, it's
somewhere?
required to make it, says that they get an all-way stop.
Right.
Phillips this way has.
But usually the ordinances for stop signs say the stop sign shall be located X number of feet from here to there, so that's what I need. They usually, Mark would do
That's usually the
that.
no parking is X number of feet from there. to there.
No parking.
We'll make sure we have a form of ordinance that passes muster. Because usually if it's all-way stop, it's at the intersection of the 4 legs, the intersection of X and Y. But we,
Four-way stop.
Yes,
Don't
it's
forget
all
it.
way.
Don't
yeah,
forget.
we,
Write it down, write it down.
I can't reach them.
so, Joyce, we'll provide
I
that draft.
just don't have the wording correctly.
Yeah, Dan is correct, obviously, it's a resolution.
I apologize, yeah.
Disappears in there, so we wanted to.
And you'll give me all the streets too.
Yes.
Eleanor's ripping off.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that.
Actually,
It was,
right now, on my list.
See, he didn't.
No, Shelley knows.
So I'm sorry again, we interrupted your report.
No, thank you. And the last thing, the Scout Building.
We got our first quote for roof repair, and it came in pretty good. I think we're waiting on a couple more. Did you get the other two?
No, I didn't get the other two yet. I got multiple contractors and everything getting those for quotes to come back right now. It's hard thing with the quotes, a lot of it is because of materials.
Yeah.
So bounce it, but the pricing is starting to come down on some of the building materials. So we will look at it and kind of been putting off and waiting for this to start coming down. So plans are out. We have solicited several for electricians, plumbers, heating and ventilation, roofers, carpenters for the inside work to separate everything out. So we're.
It's terrible time.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Thanks for all the rest, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's nice. All right, so, let's see. We'll just go right down. Finish up strong. You can follow that.
Well, we found the funding for my bike patrol. Yay!
Thank you,
I've been
Shelley.
fighting for this for 3 years.
It's back.
Clerk
It's
salary
back.
wage, you took it from clerk salary and wage.
We have a cheat day.
So we'll have them for July 4th, and we'll have them for the whole rest of the summer, right?
Yes, if you see, the training is tonight. I wanted Sergeant Burns and Sergeant Wong to run each side of the department through a refresher, because It's been a couple years. I want them to have the nice matching outfit. We're gonna take a picture, and we're gonna be out there visible to the public. The guys are excited about it. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Mrs. Kelly. We're gonna utilize it in all kinds of ways.
I know.
It's gonna be great for the residents.
It's gonna be great. It's
Yeah.
gonna be great.
Thank you.
But I'll save the rest of my report for my youth mayor and council representative, Garrett Smith, and he'll be reading my report next, on the 6th of July. And I'm looking forward to hearing what he gives us. So it'll be interesting. And Chief, do you want to say something about the utilization of the Sally Port, from Clements Bridge?
Yeah, I worked with, I think for a long period of time, we weren't coming in. One of the things I want to do is make some improvements on the way we handle things in the Sally Port area. I spoke with Mr. Rahman, he helped us out. We're going to get new remotes, so I can't remember the last time the police department guys, when they had an arrest, came in forward from Clements Bridge. We would always back it, so I wanted to make sure that we're up to par on everything. We have a beautiful building. I want the guys to be able to go in forward, rise down, take the prisoner in that way. Instead of backing in, we're going to go in forward. I don't know.
The way it should be.
Yes.
Why were they backing in?
Well, I don't know, maybe this may not have worked properly over here, but it was just, I wanted a different way. New chief, new way of doing things.
We're looking forward to that.
Yes,
I think it'll be a great way to do it from going.
There's always a way to
Yeah,
improve on
yeah,
anything, so
yeah.
we gotta look at it.
Definitely an improvement.
Yep.
That's it.
That's
Progress
it.
in the report. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, we're ready for the 4th of July parade, so I won't touch on Patty stuff. But one thing I do want to bring up that everybody needs to know, because I know she's not going to say anything. I was tasked with the job, I guess, as Chief Daly, going out the door with the body cameras. So one of the things for me is I always like to be calculated in everything I do, especially the big purchase that I'm responsible for and I have my hands in. So, working with Shelley with this, she was on the same page as me, which is great, where we want to sit tight, we want to make the right decisions for the borough because they're here. So we've been pushing it, making sure all our ducks are in order. So one of the final things that I wanted to do was I wanted to meet with her, as well as I brought Sergeant Wolin down on a conference call with the salesman of the body worn cameras. So we went over the original quote that was given to Chief Daly, and we went line by line, yes. Look at Shelley, you go with that, yeah. Look at Sergeant Wolin, he's going to be here a long time, you go with that, yeah, that makes sense this way. So we all pulled everything together, and when I finally, at the end of the call, I said to the guy, all right, rework us a quote and send it the next day, because we want to get moving this time. We got to reward it this time to move forward. Shelley calls me the next day, and it was, I'll let her explain it another time whenever she wants to, but she did a fantastic job on it, and I don't think anybody could have did a better job than her with what she did, and it's everything that we need in there, and I'm really excited about it.
And it's all covered by the grant, right?
Well,
Shelley, you want to talk
some
about,
of it.
let her
So-
talk about the money issue.
So our body cameras, our storage, and our software is 100% covered, well, within $600.
That's awesome.
It's unbelievable.
The only thing that the borough would be responsible to pay for is some of the extras, like, the rack that they're going to put them on.
Which comes with professionalism, everything's neat
The
and
charging
located in one
station.
area.
Just a couple little things. We may end up putting out a total of about $14,000, I think it came to. And then for the choir integration, whatever that ends up turning out to be.
It's
So
amazing.
for the actual camera, storage, and software itself, we came within $600.
That's
And most municipalities did not do that.
They absolutely.
They did not, so she's very proud, so everybody let her know. Very
Great
proud.
job, great job.
She sent the email to me and I didn't even read it very well. I said, good job, and I didn't even know what I was saying, good job to. I realized that it was within $600.
Like Mr. Long said about patience, in that situation, patience paid off big time.
Because municipalities that purchased before the,
I didn't want to jump the
They
gun.
lost down.
they didn't get reimbursed,
No.
which
I
is
don't want to
amazing.
jump the gun. And the reason we went with that company is because because Chief Daly purchased the body camera,
Yeah.
or the car camera some years ago. I wanted to marry it up. So it's the same company, there's no crossovers, it's easy for the officers to get in, get out, everything's married up, get them in and off the street quicker, and that's what it's always about.
You got a long-term relationship with this company.
Yes.
Yes.
That way I have any problems.
And that's actually something else to consider. We are putting out far less out of pocket than many other municipalities, and we are actually integrating our systems with car cameras, which several others are not, and they are still putting out more money than we are.
We sat tight and we did the right thing for everyone.
That's great.
Well,
Good job.
congratulations.
And
Nice
then other
showing.
than that, I'm good. I don't want to touch on too much of,
Well, Ms. Pasio's going to finish us up with the 4th of
We're
July, right?
All right.
Talk about the president.
All right, very brief. It's going to be a main parade. There will be no bicycle parade and no baby parade this year. So at 1 o'clock, we will begin on the Black Horse Pike, straight down to 8th Avenue. Police are ready.
We're ready.
Public Works is ready. Mayor and council, you'll be wearing your white pants, your blue blazers, and your red tie. And we're
It's supposed to be 70 degrees.
it's going to be
Wear
76 and possibly rain. So it is rain or shine, regardless. There we have no rain date. So we're going to walk in the rain if it's raining, unless there's a monsoon, but I'll still walk there too. All right, so 1 o'clock, people show up at 12:30. If anybody wants to walk in our parade, please let me know. The RYAA is going to be walking, the girls softball field will be walking. VFW, we have our motorcycle guys, we're watch riders, and lots of string bands. So it's going to be a great parade. I will see everybody there. Will you be coming, Craig? You said there was a possibility.
No, I'll be there.
Okay, Rich will not, Rich will be, he has to be away. But other than that, 12:30, we'll all meet at Gardner's. Our youth mayor and council will, hopefully they will be walking in it also, and then we will be swearing them in on July 6th at our council meeting. And I do want to say one more thing, and that is, and only because I just see it all over Facebook. Yes, we will be having a town-wide yard sale. It will be a weekend yard sale, the last Saturday in September. So for those who are asking, yes, we will have a town-wide yard sale weekend. That is Saturday and Sunday, the last Saturday.
Well, let's put it on our
So,
website and let's get it up there so they know. Right, it's not up there. is it?
Did we put that up yet? I don't think we did.
Let's put it up
Okay,
there, so they know
let's-
it's Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, so we can get that up. Other than that, I think it's progress. We are moving along.
I want to add one more thing to the
Yes.
parade. One of the things that, that I thought would be nice is Chief Daly, this will be his last parade as the chief of police here. I wanted him to dress up in his white shirt and he will be walking with.
Is he
Mayor and
going to
council
direct
down.
everybody, all these?
No, he's not going to say a word.
Do we have an AED?
You should love y'all.
There's one, there was
Is
one.
that gonna be you now?
There's, no, not at all.
Who's
There's-
going to?
There's one rule for him to be allowed to be in that parade that I came up with. He is not allowed to have a radio. So he is walking with mayor and council, waving goodbye to all the residents. That's another way to honor him.
Yes.
He's had a tremendous career here.
Does he know?
Yo, he knows. I told him he's not allowed in the car. His wife is allowed in the car, but he has to walk.
Okay, and you have it set up on who's going to be, I know Bob Del Sordo is going to be
Yes,
part of that
I'm
group
very thankful.
to organize,
Yes,
yes.
I will not be out there yelling at anyone.
And I'll be there. I will come.
Until you have to.
No.
Yeah.
That was his.
All right. I appreciate that, and as always, it usually turns out to be a nice day. Our dignitaries, we have a few coming,
Good.
so, yes, so it'll be very nice.
I apologize, I have two more things. Did you bring up basketball, that basketball's starting back up? For Rich, his report, did you say that?
Richie mentioned something that's going to be starting up in July.
Yeah, okay, and that's only the end of this week, so basketball starts. So hopefully, we've asked them for a very specific schedule. I think Ms. Pinto said, you can't just tell us the whole month. So we're looking for dates and times that they're going to be there. So hopefully, we're going to get a better answer. And then St. Teresa starts back up with volleyball I think, the middle of
That's part
August.
of the problem. St. Teresa's hasn't told me when volleyball is yet. All this just came up this week in the last few days.
Do you have a contact? You have
I already did.
Okay.
I
Well,
already-
Marie, after the meeting, because we're looking for dates and
No, I already
times.
called- I emailed Jeff Simpson.
Oh, you did, Jeff, okay. Okay, so Jeff will do it.
She's got.
So basketball's starting back up, so we just have to make sure we're prepared and things like that. And then I'd asked Ms. Pinto to get a resolution together for the neighborhood preservation. We have to walk that on tonight, because that resolution is due for the July 1st. So a grant was sent out to the borough. Did anybody see it? Did you forget that?
I didn't know there was a
It
resolution.
was on the 7th page. It was on the,
Yeah, but I don't believe the deadline, I don't believe the
the
deadline.
deadline was July 1st. You have to do the one
It's
page,
your notice of intent.
you notice of intent, but it's due by July 1st.
Correct, and I contacted the person on the email.
So council does not have to pass a resolution?
They didn't say anything about that. Do you know anything
I
about a
do not,
resolution?
I do not.
Just that notice of
It's
intent.
just in case.
Yeah, I think any application usually requires it, and I thought it
It's
said,
not an application, Nick.
it was a letter of intent, though.
It says this does not, all you have to do is tell them if you're interested. It doesn't bind you to anything.
You think that's what it is?
I believe it's just a notification that you are interested in, it's not a resolution. Because you, I would, without actually having an application formulated, I wouldn't even want to.
Yeah, there isn't an application.
Okay,
And also,
as long as we fill that out and send it back, that we're at least applying, it's $125,000. Runnemede was one of 25 municipalities in the state of New Jersey that meets the criteria for neighborhood preservation.
Wow.
And
Great.
it is basically exactly what we've already been talking about, facade enhancement grants for both commercial and residential properties. You remember this one? They started it about 2 years ago, and so it was us in Camden County, Belmar, Berlin. I'll forward it, or have Joyce, if you could forward it to everybody. But I looked at it very quickly, but on one of the pages, it basically said that they were looking for a letter of intent. Maybe that's not the
But
same
there's a
as.
form at the end.
Yes.
But the problem is it is not a fillable PDF, and they want you to do an electronic signature. So I called the guy, and he gave me the name of someone else to speak to.
Okay.
And that's where I am right now. But I do know that it's due by the
and we
first.
might be able to convert that over to you.
Yeah.
And,
We do
Yeah.
that for the,
You convert it to a,
Well, if you can do that.
yeah, well, actually, Chris can, right? Chris can convert that over.
Chris and I just have to do that for all of them.
All right, well, the one-
It's really the program that if you had more powerful Adobe, you can.
Yeah, I know.
so based on what I read though, is I took how many towns were eligible versus $2.5 million that they have allocated. Maximum grant is 125. It looks like 23 out of the 25 towns will get the grant if they apply. So as long as we do our due diligence, I think we have a 90-some% chance of getting this.
Let's do it.
This thing, so.
The funds have to be spent in what way?
It was neighborhood preservation, so there was a list of items, so facade enhancement for commercial properties, residential home improvements.
Most
So that can
And things like that.
That can go towards our facade program?
It could go right to the facade program.
Great, 'cause I've been,
Yeah.
I've been talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we've been talking about, it actually lines right up with a lot of the stuff that we've already been talking about.
It's on our the facade enhancement is on our website.
Yes, but this is actually, we were only funding $5,000 to $10,000. This gives us the opportunity of $125,000. Now, I didn't get into details on how many years you have to spend it all. I think it is a multi-year
There's
program.
actually a workshop coming up.
There's a workshop coming up at the end of July.
The business community gets wind of that, and that kind of funding to enhance the facades, that could start
Oh,
something.
absolutely, absolutely. So we're very lucky that we were
Yeah.
on that list. But I caught that it was really by July 1st, we had to do a letter of intent. That's why I brought it up tonight.
Yeah, but it's a form, right in there, it's the last.
As long as there's not a resolution,
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't
fine.
say anything about a resolution.
okay. And I think we got everything. Did we miss anything?
I just wanted to mention that I signed up for the seminar for the electric car.
I saw that.
Yeah, I signed up for that, so I'll be taking notes. And
Awesome.
I'll report on that.
Thanks, Ellen.
Did I miss anything? Okay. So this part of the meeting is open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Dave Steinberg. I live at 25 East Clements Bridge Road, apartment number 313, of the Brunson House. I have an interest in wanting to take the classes for becoming a coach for Heart and Soul. And I'd like to make a request that the borough grant the tuition fee for me in exchange with the letter that I sent out to everybody last week. The amount is $1,495, and I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has in reference to that.
You want to go with this, John? You want to start?
Yeah, I could. David, you know, we as a community, some of you might remember Heart and Soul, and we really we were in a contest, and we were trying to represent Camden County, and we came so close to winning it. And at that point, we would have won a $100,000 grant to participate in the Heart and Soul program, which would have covered the expenses for about three to 4 years of coaching, management, and a planning, a community planner. David wants to be part of the Heart and Soul program, even though we have not decided ourselves as a community that we're going to do it again. We have been asked to do it. We've been offered a $10,000 grant if we would match it, but that would only cover about 6 months of the program. That doesn't cover. It's a very expensive program. It could cost the borough up to $100,000, but so much will be gained from the program. I think, Nick, I think we had until December 31st to consider whether we wanted to opt in, and we haven't decided yet. I know personally, I'm just too busy with this heat and everything to put a lot of effort into that. I'm involved in so many other things. But David wants to do this. He's going to be doing it for other communities, and he's asking the borough if we would help him in any capacity. I do believe he's probably all got his letter, and the letter says that he'd be willing to start and help get the redevelopment of the Black Horse Pike moving. With a lot of the things that we've been doing, we've got these assessments from colleges. We have a video that we may be considering working on, and it does have to be implemented. Someone's got to put the power behind it and the energy behind it. David's offering that if he can get some kind of a stipend for that situation to help him with his Heart and Soul program. I'll say this though, David, I did look into it, and I talked to our CFO and our treasurer, and we couldn't just fund you that money because we're not part of the program. We'd have to get creative and possibly discuss a stipend or something if we wanted to utilize your talent in the redevelopment of getting the redevelopment program back up and running, and maybe you head it. So that is something we could consider, but I don't know that we can make a decision. Yeah. What do you guys think?
So if I could just jump in, what's interesting about what just happened today with this neighborhood preservation program, you can look that up. There is an opportunity with this grant that we would get from the state for this neighborhood preservation to possibly have someone who could be a point person. So the two things could come together, where we're doing this facade enhancement, the residential, and this redevelopment aspect, promoting the redevelopment of the Black Horse Pike and Ninth Avenue. So there is an opportunity with this new grant. I think, the only issue I believe is you've got a timeline though, correct?
Yeah, my timeline is that I need to get a check into Heart and Soul by the 9th of July.
9th of July. So,
Listen, there's a lot to consider here, and I don't feel that we should be pushed into anything.
I understand that. So,
Do you understand?
I do. So the only question I have is, if we're going to apply for this neighborhood enhancement, if we may try to find funding in some other aspect, are you able to step up and do that program now with the idea that it may come back as us being able to appoint you once you have that certification and those kind of things?
Okay, I want to see if I understand what.
No, I'm asking him to fund it, like we would do with someone getting a CDL license. Go get your CDL license, go get your
I
certification.
think you understand the difference to that.
What's the difference?
Employee?
Yeah.
But it would be, what Mr. said, could be a stipend as the confidential employee to the council. I mean, there aren't different things you can do. I
The
mean,
deadline's
you
a
know,
bit of a challenge, because we need to talk again.
I mean, redevelopment, it's redevelopment position. I mean, come on, I've seen so many different titles for everything, but is that what your point is? There'd have to be some title, correct?
I'm not concerned about what the title is.
No, I'm talking about our
I
attorney.
was just explaining the difference, because you now that's the CDL, and that's not an apples to apples.
It's not an apple to apple, but certification. So the gentleman we just did this evening, who was the construction official, who went out and got his electrical license, got his mechanical license, got his fire license, he now turns around and says, look, if you appoint me as an interim guy for $150 a day, we can use him to go do an inspection. I was thinking that it's similar in that sense. If he goes and gets this certification, which opens up the door for heart and soul. One of the problems with these programs is these constant matching grants. We've got to make a commitment to something that we don't know what we're doing.
David, can you find out, I was told for the $10,000 opportunity for our community,
Yeah.
we have till December. Can you see can they roll that? Is that a deadline, or will we have that opportunity in 2022?
Okay.
Because we're not ready, we're just not ready for that
I've
commitment.
been in touch with the people from Art and Soul this afternoon.
Yeah.
It's my understanding, as far as the grant is concerned, that it's first come, first served. They have probably a few more people applying for it than they anticipated. So even though there's a deadline for the end of December, it could be gone by that time. And there's no way to tell if that's going to be the case at this point or not. It's 6 months from now.
Well, I don't understand. What is the town of Runnemede getting? What are you doing for us?
Okay, I had sent an email yesterday. I assume, I was answering your question with what you had. I don't have a copy of it right here. But what I want to do is get more involved with the side grants, with start to promote Runnemede as a place to do business, which would include such things, I'm just picking a couple of things out, such things as reaching out to the Board of Realtors, holding a presentation at their meetings. I used to be a realtor myself many years ago, and inviting them to talk to their clients and say, Runnemede is a happy place. We have a lot of assets in A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. I would prepare whatever brochures are necessary, attend and encourage realtors to, especially commercial realtors, to consider Runnemede as a location. We have a couple of parcels of land, we have a lot of empty buildings. Something needs to be done.
And what makes you think that you're qualified to do this?
Great question. In my background, I spent time in the Redevelopment Authority of Philadelphia. We're doing some industrial reuse. Also, I was a senior planner of the state of New Jersey many years ago. And I never really lost interest. I've taken classes at University of Pennsylvania for architecture and city planning classes, as well as government administration. And in the past 2 years, I've been working with the PES refinery, working to come up with a plan for reuse of the land. This is before the explosion, and subsequently, the work that I had done included residential reconstruction, but that's not being followed through for certain reasons by the company that took over.
What have you completed that has been successful?
What have I completed in the way of planning? Okay, most of my background has been in sales, and it's since I've been retired the last 4 years, I've been getting back to really something that I like doing anyway, which is this.
I'd like to just interject something.
I've done a lot of research with the Orton family and Heart and Soul.
Yeah.
I've done a lot, and I've spent my weekends just reading about that. And, it's just, what are you going to coach us that we don't already know?
I'm going to just jump in a second because because there's a lot going on right here. David is part of Reimagine Runnemede. David was in charge of the poetry. Remember the student poetry, which was very successful. He headed that up. He ran that, and it was very successful. There's still murals and things around. We get a lot of comments. The Labyrinth, it's his baby. He's been fundraising, and he's fundraised quite a bit of money and brought a lot of attention and brings a lot of people out in the community to utilize some of the new projects we got going. So he's shown me that he has the ability to do a lot of the things that we want to do. You know, I think that...
Sometimes you need to start one project and finish that project. We can't get into all these different projects. We can't be pushed into a decision. There's a lot to consider.
There is a lot to consider, but I think the mayor's probably thinking the same thing I am. We're trying to find people, the PI program, we're trying to find people that want to take charge, get involved, and make things happen around here. And is this an opportunity for us, or is this something we just have to have a private meeting about? Because I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody here, I've been so busy.
I understand.
I like the assistance. I think if we can, come to some kind of agreement with the money, I'm all for it. The $1,495 is not that much. I'm not a big fan of redeveloping the Black Horse Pike because I think retail is dead pretty much on that pike. I think we need to eventually, buy some buildings.
Well, redevelopment doesn't just have to be commercial, it can be other things.
Any number of things, but the biggest thing with the Black Horse Pike is the speed limit, and the state is unwilling to change any speed limits. It affects everything up and down the Black Horse Pike. The facade grant, if we get money like that, I think that would be a big help. The one store in town that looks the worst is the old liquor store. It brings everything down. And I've tried to talk to the owner about it at his new store. His son is very good friends with my son, but he just hasn't done anything with it. He's trying to sell it. $259,000, I don't get that, but still, whatever assistance you can give us, I think it's worth a try. David, I'm not a big fan of Labyrinth. It's not me. I'm a golfer. That's my Labyrinth. But it's a great thing you're doing. And the woods, as far as Kenley, great stuff. I grew up in Maine. I don't want to see another woods. I don't care about woods. But still, whatever assistance you can give us, and if it's $1,495, and that's a good start, if we can do it legally, I'm all for it. But, that's my opinion.
I think what we need to do is talk privately.
Okay. I mean, I will agree over in a sense, I know that's wimpy, but I understand that we need help to get things done. I understand that we have to have some kind of metric to see if we actually are accomplishing something. We battle because we want to get things done. So I think that, coming up with a plan, knowing what it is, I think the difficulty that we're running into is we work on a budget. And, wasn't planned. Everything we had to do was basically planned.
Even something that's $1,400, still an encumbrance that.
And that has to be planned. I understand that. We it's got to be in some line item where we said this is what we're doing. When we've made decisions, they've always been, council has put it in the budget and things like that. I think this neighborhood preservation program is really something that really fits, and it's ironic that it happened today because it's different than the PI program and and the heart and soul because there is no matching grant. Matching grant means that we've got to find the money to match what they're giving us. And then we're subject to their guidelines. With the neighborhood enhancement, they get it. I just sent it to everybody. I apologize, I was on my phone.
So pretty much, the funds could come from that project.
Yes.
There's a deadline here we're talking about.
The deadline, though, is for the heart and soul training.
Right.
The neighborhood preservation is basically letting them know that by July 1st, they're interested in applying for it, and there's only 25 towns that are able to even apply for it. So we've got a very good chance if we take the initiative to get it done. Read it tonight, look at it. I think that Dave can definitely bring things to the table and help us out. The question becomes, though, is this finding the money where we're not sure what we're doing? And I think that's the only difficulty. That's why I was starting to say it with, if you did it on your own, and you show up and say, look, I'm now able to do this for my community, then we can say no different than we do. I know you said you were bad analogies, that anybody showing up with a law degree or an engineering degree. What's that?
It's not get crazy.
And what we'll say.
Because remember, you have to be careful not to blur the line. Of course, I appreciate Mr. Steinberg and everything you brought to the table. Between volunteer and something that gets you into the realm of employee.
I agree, it becomes an employee. I agree, it's a gray area. It's something we're dealing with constantly, where people want to volunteer versus a
What you're
job.
hearing, Dave, we want to help, we want to do, we like, we like what you're doing and we want to help, but we
And
have
you've
to
done
be
so
careful.
much already that we,
So
and
we
we
have to talk
recognize that.
somehow.
But it's the funding that we got to find.
Yes,
How we fund it.
So the only thing I will say is that the Heart and Soul program, while it was, I think, a really great eye-opening about what this community could do, there are really a lot of rules that you have to follow with these guys, as opposed to, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. Rules are good because it gives you some type of plan, but it sounds like I think we're going to have to step back and at least look at these other things before we can just make a decision and pay for it. Okay?
There's a way to help, and I think we want to help. It's just we're going to end the night how we started the
We're
night,
just
right?
like looking for all kinds of ways. Let's
Exactly.
just follow.
Kind of got to take the step back, take 10
Yes.
steps forward. Right?
Yes,
It's just there's
Are you okay with that, Dave?
Absolutely.
I understand where you're coming from. I'm committed to go ahead with the program. I was talking to two people today from Borough Family Foundation, and it's really something that I want to do. I wanted to do it even before thinking where even the funding would come from.
Don't they have financing to start you?
They
must.
I haven't even looked at,
Well,
they have something there, I have to.
Because if you
take
get
a look.
started and we move forward and
I
things
think it's
work.
disappointing that they charge, to tell you the truth. When you're trying to get people to get involved and engage in their
No,
community.
no,
Well,
he's
what-
gonna make money from this.
Oh,
He's gonna be a coach, he's gonna charge town.
so by learning.
He's gonna charge a premium
In
for
other
his
words-
services.
In
Yeah.
other words, if we do Heart and Soul.
He would be the guy we hire.
He would be the guy we hire,
Okay.
and it would be about $25,000 a year for
I'll
2
do
years.
it.
Also along with that, because we're in Heart and Soul, we have to
We're not in
hire
Heart
a
and Soul.
program coordinator. And that program coordinator is another $25,000. See, this is the $100,000 would have paid that.
Yes.
Now we have to fund it.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that I'm learning, and I hope everyone realizes, everything takes time, money and people.
So then you're running
And without
into-
money and people, you can't get anything done.
With all that, we're running into procurement.
What?
Procurement, if it's more than just the 14, and for the reimbursement, and you hire him to provide these special services while he goes to other towns, similar to me, you have to follow the procurement statutes, depending on the amount.
Oh.
So I think you're opening up a giant can here, that while everybody's intentions are good, we just have to be very careful in how we go about this, that's all.
Let's continue to talk. I really want everybody to look at this neighborhood preservation and see where that funding, that gives us a lot of the latitude that we need to do some of these things. But I think everyone can agree, nothing happens unless we get people involved to get things done. It can't just be us all the time doing stuff. We have to get other people in the community
Agreed.
involved.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you, Dave, and the things that you do and other people.
Definitely appreciate it.
I've been involved with a number of things. I'm going to continue involved with the same number of things. Regardless of what your decision is, I'm committed to Runnemede. I like living here. I think it's a great town. And I feel
I like having you.
And we
I
like,
wanna do
and
as
we
much as I
like
can to
having
get back.
you, and we appreciate
Thank you.
everything you do for us, you know that.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very
All
much.
right,
I
Dave.
really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Anyone else from the audience? Mr. Rahman, I saw, or Miss, Val.
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 Ladies first.
Ladies. Val, we missed you.
Hi, Val.
Yes, you guys too. I was so glad to hear you were back.
Great.
Just a
Name and
question.
address, you know the formality.
Val Palisano, 831 North Oakland Avenue. Do we have anything on record about B&Bs?
Bed and breakfast. We have nothing on our ordinance about those or Airbnbs, if that's what you're talking about. You're talking about Airbnbs and the renting of houses.
But it's covered under Keith. Keith has
It's
always-
under our code enforcement. They have to be a registered landlord,
Correct.
but we would have to know about them. Are you,
Okay.
is there a problem?
Yeah, and
Okay.
we already had somebody that wanted to do it, they had to have egress from the second floor.
You do have to have egress from the second floor.
So it's more involved.
We've learned that more than one occasion.
Yeah, that's for the safety of the people themselves, coming in to rent.
Well, it's very interesting.
Yeah. And we're going to have the bus running again, I believe.
So hopefully we'll have a schedule and you can get,
We'll pass that on.
between you and Patty, get that to everyone.
Get that together.
That will be wonderful. They're so looking forward to it.
I'm sure they are.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you
Good
very
seeing
much.
you.
Nice seeing you, hon.
Charlie?
Charles Goodwin, West Third Avenue, OEM coordinator for Runnemede. Like to, in case everybody's here tonight, I'd like to bring up our mitigation plan. Earlier this month, we had a meeting, a completion meeting. The next stage in this will be we submit it to the state sometime between November and December. We should get our final approval, and probably January, February, we pass an ordinance to adopt it.
Okay.
I'd like to thank everybody who worked on the committee with it. Special thanks to Harry. He did a lot of work for us. A lot of it pertained to engineering and Harry's department. Also, we found out there's grants available, especially for a couple of the programs we talked about tonight, stormwater and upgrading the highway department. There's funds going to be available for that mitigation, and they're willing to work with us in grants for that work. So, copy of the annex was sent out to Mayor and Council, all department heads. I'd like to have a reply from everyone to approve it.
Okay.
And Mrs. Kelly already approved it. So,
I saw that she ready to be.
I tried it in 20 minutes.
She's up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate everyone's help that helped you out and
This is a great.
worked as a team, and we,
This time is more in detail than the last two, I think.
Yeah.
So usually what we do when the plan comes up, we just take the present one, delete or add to it. This one is a whole new thing.
Whole new ballgame.
Yeah, yeah.
we're very happy that it's done.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions on this?
So we're taking the gallows down, Harry.
So
you're
so Charlie,
okay.
you're looking for each council person
Hi.
just to approve it? Send
Yeah,
you a little
yeah.
letter, everything looks good for the contact
Yeah,
information?
from my records, that's all.
Okay.
All right, no problem.
It came from Zion.
Did everything?
It came from Zion.
Don't we have to post that to the public for 30 days or something?
The county's already posted it.
Okay.
So far, we had 3 replies from our residents. And one reply was, they were concerned about last year down the line. Other than that, I don't know about it.
In general, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we covered that.
Any storm, when we need power, contact me, there's a special phone number for the county, the public service.
Got Sergeant Burns' plan for the
No,
okay, you're in.
I don't need one. So I talked to Chief Dewitt today, he's already in the walk, he's got his walk around.
I talked to him too. Is he?
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Did you want to wait till afterwards, Maria? Do you want to come up there and cover?
Is
Okay.
he selling insurance? He's coming to my house. He's coming.
When you talk, it makes me, cheater. Pretty close.
Members of council and all attendees. To the mayor, members of council and all attendees.
You want to read it?
Oh, my goodness.
Maria Panzarella, 171 Pine Avenue, Runnemede, New Jersey. To the mayor, members of council, all attendees tonight, how great it is to see each other in person again finally. To all elected officials and borough employees, thanks to all of you for keeping our town moving and looking great during the pandemic that crippled our world over the past year and a half. to our new acting police chief and his entire police department. Thank you for keeping our borough safe and being there for all residents in every and any way possible during such a surreal period of living. You are all valued and appreciated. I'm sure I can speak on behalf of all involved in following up and stating publicly, as the acting chief did, that we all do absolutely love Officer Brooks. And finally, to the current members of council who recently secured the primary election victory, I congratulate you both. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Have a great holiday weekend and summer.
Thank you very much. Thank
I didn't put her up to it.
Sure you did. All right, thanks, Maria.
Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one else, is there a motion to close the
I
public
make a
portion?
motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The public portion is closed. If there's no other business, is there a motion to close?
I'll make a
To
motion to
adjourn.
close, to adjourn this meeting.
Motion by Ms. Passio, second by Mr. Lobenstein, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned, 8:07. That was a long meeting.